come on, make a move. Everybody say it, make a move. Easter time, good time to remember and appreciate the efforts of our prophets, past and present. Yeah, you too. But you know, even the atheists have got to have some sympathy for the prophets. By and large, these folks are big thinkers, regardless of which God the thoughts came from. Now, your typical prophet delivers a few basic messages. Some of the most popular: believe in me, don't kill anyone, don't take stuff that's not yours, be humble, take care of the poor, life sucks, get used to it. Real prophets are big on integrity. Their behavior is consistent with their teachings, and they quite reasonably, I think, expect their followers to adhere to these messages and teachings. At least the basics, right? Right? Okay, so Moses, after many trials and tribulations, brings his people to Mount Sinai. He tells them he has to climb the mountain to find out some important stuff, and they are to wait for him there. Before he leaves, he says to them something like, "Now, don't forget, the whole reason we escaped from Egypt and made it this far is because God is on our side. And the most important and critical thing he needs us to do is to believe in him and no other. So while I'm away, please make sure that you continue to believe in him and no other." Everybody clear? Yeah? Okay. See you soon. Okay, I'm back. As promised, I have 10 pieces of very important information for you. And now, what's that? You know, because it looks suspiciously like a cow made out of gold that you folks made so you would have something to worship. You would think that things would have gotten better over the centuries, right? If only. Here's a quote from the Bible, Mark 10:21. Which says, among other things, sell whatever you have and give it to the poor. And here's a quote from our current Pope Francis. "Poverty in the world is a scandal. In a world where there is so much wealth, so many resources to feed everyone, it's unfathomable that there are so many hungry children, that there are so many children without an education, so many poor persons." And here is a picture of the Pope's house, which is conservatively estimated to be worth about $15 billion. Francis, I imagine that in your studies of the Bible, you may have come across a little group called the Pharisees. On behalf of those who went to Catholic school for 12 years, let me bring the rest of you up to speed. The Pharisees were a group of hypocritical priests in Jesus' time that lived high on the hog while the poor suffered. To say Jesus didn't like the Pharisees would be a gargantuan understatement. Francis, if there is a second coming of Christ, you can forget about the fire and the brimstone and the man you are in for a butt whooping of biblical proportions. I mean, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know things are bad when even the Buddhists are getting into it with each other. Without taking sides between the competing Buddhists, I do remember an interview with the Dalai Lama some time ago where he was talking about his philosophy, and the interviewer asked him something like, "Well, how do you know all this is true?" The Dalai Lama paused and he said something like, "You know, actually I could be wrong about all this, but even if I am, it's still a pretty good way to live." Wow! If I ever decide to become a religious person again, this is going to be the one for me. It is very hard for we humans to stay on message. This is true whether you're a religious prophet or a student of the human condition. Forced equality, it didn't work in the Soviet Union. Well, yeah, let's try it in Cuba. Didn't work in Cuba. Okay, well, let's try it in Venezuela. Whoa, that really didn't work. Okay, let's try it at some point, we'll get it, hopefully. But in the meantime, I want to thank Francis for being such a shining example of what we should all not be doing in the money where your mouth is department. And he pulls it off with such aplomb. It's like he's the David Copperfield of it, or whoever is the famous magician these days of the religious world. There are, about 1.2 billion Catholics out there, almost none of them seeing Francis's behavior as anything other than perfectly normal. Man, credit where credit is due. Now, Francis, I may not agree with much of what you do, but I do believe your heart is in the right place, and I want to sincerely wish you a long life and happiness. God bless you, Francis, and thank you for being human.